Here hex 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 hex. Here hex 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 hex. Here hex 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 hex. Here hex 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 hex.
Hey everybody with the Hex Guild. Welcome to a special episode. Things have been very interesting. The progress that we knew what was going to happen in the world is continuing. And I'm trying to just put everything together and come back, even stronger. And so I just thought that, like, hey, while we're in this time of just who's got what to say and everything, and supposedly this solar eclipse stuff, April 8th, is coming through my area, and tons of people are talking about shit. My mother gave me fucking glasses. I told her I'm not fucking wearing those. Yeah, let's do a little bit of this, and then I'm sure I'll have more to give you on another Hex Guild or Hex Futures. So I've got a friend who works from home, and so I knew that he would be around his place. And the other day he mentioned, hey, have you looked at these rabbit holes about the eclipse that's coming on April 8th? And I was like, no, tell me, or something like, are they good? Are they crazy? He didn't respond. So I was just like, you know what? Like, are you available to have a conversation? He's like, yeah, I'll come on. So we might have this guy for about 45 minutes or so. This is my good buddy. I was raised with him. Welcome, Jimmy.
What's up, Davin? Yeah, thanks.
Everybody knows me as Eco Builder.
Eco Builder. Yeah, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on. My lunch break. This is my, approved lunch break from my job. So appreciate you, man.
So we're free to talk about whatever. Maybe we'll get little lashings from YouTube. I don't know. Never have on this channel so far. I still got some strikes on my other channel for talking about what was it? Some alphabet stuff.
Okay.
Whenever we were getting targeted by the SEC. Because I was just like, well, what about this and what about that? Like, it's about time some fucking men grow some balls and step up in our communities. So anyway, let's keep in mind that yeah, YouTube does slash, but and this is also strict. This is only on YouTube, but okay. Let's have fun with this. And so I'd love to. You've studied the Bible much more than any other of our friends, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just love hearing your perspective on things.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I think we, speaking of that, I do think it's interesting. We'll touch on that a little bit. Most of what I'll be talking about is based on this guy, Chris Knowles, who I really recommend if you're into, I don't know, weird shit. I don't know, rabbit holes, whatever. Like, speaking of that, he really, and this kind of relates to it. He actually showed pretty good evidence that, like, the Book of Revelation is a star map, kind of. So when it's like the dragon, it's such a crazy book. They're talking about the star constellation Draco, right? The Virgin, that's Virgo. The beast out of the sea, that's Cancer. That's the crab coming out, right? And then we'll get into this too, but it is interesting, the Book of Revelation. I mean, it's all about like Jerusalem and Babylon and the temple and all this shit. And then, we'll get into this, but guess what's happening right when Israel, who's going psycho right now, who just bombed, murdered a bunch of nonprofits just trying to feed the Gazans as a message, because you're not allowed to feed the Gazans. That's the whole point. I mean, it's pretty despicable what they're doing. And I'm going to go on record and say that if you defend them, which a lot of the boomer cons do, and including my own family, it drives me crazy. I know that they don't know, and they think that But no, it's like they're literally murdering everybody. And so they also just blew up the Israel or Iranian embassy in Syria, which is nuts. It's never happened in World War II, World War I. Despite everything, embassies are off limits in other countries, especially. And they just fucking bombed it, dude. And they killed one of their top generals. It's like almost like they're baiting them, which they are. They're baiting them and they're baiting us.
They're baiting all of us.
Yeah, they're baiting the United States, who's their little bitch, to come in and do all their wars. And if you go, everyone always talks about oil for war and all that. But really, if you really want to scratch everything, all those Middle Eastern wars we've been in is for Israel. It's always all their enemies. And they've been wanting us to go to Iran forever. In fact, the Bush 2, before 9/11, was writing about invading Iran. And who is his Undersecretary of Defense and everything? It was this guy, Paul Wolfowitz, is where the Bush doctrine came from. And guess what? He's an Israeli dual citizen, as a lot of them are. You want to go down that rabbit hole? We won't go down that rabbit hole, but I'm just saying, for going back to the Bible and this eclipse and stuff, and like portents and symbols in the sky, and I think it even says there will be signs. That's what they're talking about. And it kind of crazy to me that it does still go back to Israel and this temple and this red heifer that they're about to sacrifice on April 10th. And these red heifers, we'll get into it, come from Texas, of all places.
And why do we all have to see this and know about this? Why does the media put this in front of us?
I mean, it is just what's happening. It's these Hasidic Jews. They are prepared. They built an altar, dude. It's fucking nuts. And it's on the side of the Temple Mount, and it's to usher in the third temple of Solomon. As you know, there's been 2 temples. The first one was destroyed by Babylon. If you read the Old Testament, it's always like it's crying, it's lamenting being captive by the Babylonians. Then they come back, and then Herod rebuilds the temple, and then Jesus prophesies that this temple will be destroyed. I tell you the truth, blah, blah. And then, he dies 33 AD around then. And then in 70 AD, the temple is finally destroyed by the Romans. I think Titus, I believe, destroyed it for good. So, or not, who is it? I think it is Titus. Yeah, there's like the Arch of Titus that like Jewish people like flip off all the time because he destroyed the second temple. So there's been this prophecy that the third temple is to be built. The problem with that is that the Dome of the Rock, which is I believe, second or third holiest site for the Muslims, where Muhammad was supposedly sucked up to heaven by the Archangel Gabriel. That's what that is. And it's on the Temple Mount. So the Temple Mount is like the foundation of the temple. It's like if you had a house and there's a foundation, that's what it is. So when everyone's crying at the wall, that's what they're doing. It's like the last part of the temple that still exists. So they want to rebuild the temple on top of that. And that's very apocalyptic. For the Jewish perspective, that's to bring about their Christ, because they don't believe their Christ has come yet. From the Christian perspective, that's the Antichrist. And then you can argue the Muslim perspective, there's the Imam. So all 3 of these Abrahamic religions have like this same, some character coming back. It is so fascinating. And then what's really crazy is it ties into this eclipse, because the red heifer comes from, let me show you my screen real fast, if that's cool.
Yeah.
All right
there.
I'm going to share this tab. Yeah. Okay. So this is the eclipse. These are the 3 eclipses. Okay. That's happened. So this was 2017. If you remember,
2 eclipses and one that's routed.
So this was the one. You remember the eclipse that was in October?
Sure.
Of last year. Like it's only been like 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
And it wasn't a total eclipse. It was like a partial eclipse, but it was still, I looked at it, it was my first eclipse. I've been wanting to see an eclipse forever, just for my nerdy science guy. Because when I was in 3rd grade, we were in 3rd grade, there was an eclipse, and it was cloudy. And they're like, there'll be another eclipse in 30 years. And I'm being like, that's so fucking far. And then here we are. Anyway, it's finally happened. So then the other one, I didn't have the glasses of 2017, so I couldn't see that. But anyways.
And you and I are on the path of this next one coming up.
Okay, so yeah, so you see this right here. This is a 2017 eclipse. This eclipse was pretty important. If you recall, 2017 is about the time when America went really fucking out of their minds. This eclipse astrologically actually was in Leo, okay? And Regulus is a star in Leo, okay? Regulus is royalty, like in these star magic and all these star people. It's Regulus's royalty. Donald Trump's ascendant is Leo. When it eclipsed Leo and over Regulus, it really took away his power. And if you remember, he wasn't very good at like getting all the shit he was trying to do because he was blocked, right? So this eclipse, and then there's a famous, they made fun of him for it when he took off his glasses and looked at it without his glasses, and everyone's like, oh, I swear what he's doing when he's doing that is he's tempting the fates. Because he know all these people that rule and everything, these ruling class, they know about this shit. So like they'll make it where it's like you're fucking gay because you like you believe all this blah blah. Well, they fucking do, dude. They believe in it pretty hard. So when Trump did that, he's tempting the fates. He's basically saying, okay, well, I'm gonna do my best. But this eclipse really did eclipse his power, and it also, if you can tell, it divided the country. And what did we see around that time? That's when, America really just, got, I would say the post-liberal world began, because we do live in a post-liberal world. And when I say liberal in the classical sense of like, the Bill of Rights, and because America is liberal in the sense of like, yeah, everyone gets to freedom to this and stuff like that. Well, this is the beginning of the end of that. And we get into the post-liberal world where we have all these, Marxist, which I think is really, I won't get into that, but that's really, I think, all these people that just won't shut the fuck up, and they keep going and they keep going. And you're like, why do they stop? They're not going to stop, because it's not about, you're like, well, I'll prove to them their hypocrisy. It's like, they don't, it's all about power and subversion of them. So anyways, 2017 eclipse is this one. And if you could tell, it did, and the thing about an eclipse is the effects of it aren't felt till like later. It's not like that day, like everything. It's just like, but yeah, if you look back in retrospect, that was a pretty big deal. And that was the first American eclipse in like years. Okay. And then this one was in 2023. This was in October. This was a partial eclipse, so it wasn't as big a deal. But if you notice, it went right through Texas where we are. And then this one's the one coming up, and it crosses the X right there. You see that? That's where we are, basically. We're kind of right there, but it's like right with the cross. And there's also is an LF, which I think is Hebrew, this letter, which is like Alf, like the beginning of the end. Okay. So there's like so much symbology here. And when you look into this stuff, a lot of it's based on symbols and syncs, as they say. And so, and one more thing real fast, the eclipse, to the ancients, an eclipse was important in an omen, and it wasn't a good one. It meant, if for instance, if the Roman army was about to have battle and an eclipse appeared in the sky, or they would know about it because they actually knew when the eclipses were. They wouldn't do it because they'd be like, oh, you don't do that because that's bad luck. That's bad. That's bad juju, which goes back into the star and like how the ancients felt. And I think we're dealing with it right now. People don't understand. It's almost like Philip K. Dick said, the Roman Empire never ended. Yeah, dude, we're still living in this world that we've been told is all bullshit. And I think it's all kind of coming out right now that it isn't, that the world's way stranger than you think it is. And the reason these ancients believed in this shit is because there was some reality to it. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what that all means, like how the stars, I don't know. I just know that there's something, and it keeps going. So putting that, like, I think Japan thought, like, when the eclipse is the sun, the belief was that that's the underworld eclipsing the world, okay? And you have the underworld and the world that we live in, right? So it's a big deal. So this X right here.
Wait, real fast. Jay, everything's in the chat says never go out during an eclipse. What are you going to do during the eclipse? Because I was planning on either going to the lake or staying inside.
Well, it's a Monday, so I'm just going to go outside and look at it for a minute. I mean,
are you going to use glasses? Are you going to use protection?
You have to, dude. You can't see it if you don't use glasses. I tried that in 2017. I tried putting.
Isn't everything just going to go dark on us? Because we're in a
you may be able to see it like when it fully eclipses, like, but
that's what I mean.
Like it does, yeah.
It's going to be a 3-hour process.
Yeah,
by the way,
you can't see it until, if you want to do that, I think you can maybe see it at the totality. But if you just want to like look at it, you have to use those glasses. And also, we're not in the pure path. I think we're like a few degrees off. I think we're at 97% or something. But if you wanted to get full, I think you had to go to Kerrville or Fredericksburg.
Oh man, we got to go further west. Okay.
Well, yeah, but it's so I would definitely wear the glasses, dude. They
All
work.
right.
They work.
Back
So yeah,
to
I'm just gonna
the center of the X.
right. So this is where the red heifer was raised that I was just talking about. The red heifer is
Really?
yeah, it came from Texas,
Oh,
and this
man.
is where it was. Okay. Let me look up the red heifer.
I love it how we're always a few steps behind them. No, I don't love that. I wish somebody would be able to cut this off before it happened.
Okay, so this is like this isn't just like me. This is on CBS News. What do these red cows from Texas have to do with war and peace in the Middle East? Okay. From Texas to the West Bank. Instrumental in bringing the heifers to the Holy Land. Group committed to seeing a new temple built in Jerusalem's old city. I mean, this shit's crazy, dude. Let's see. So this is the Dome of the Rock I was talking about. That so for them to build this, they have to destroy this. I mean, this is World War III, dude. This is literally fucking world. It makes me mad because it's like, don't get me started. So yeah, they have to destroy this to build their temple. And you know, in Iran, like they're trying to pick a fight with Iran, dude. You know who Iran is allies with is Russia, who we're at a proxy war with. And also like we would get our ass kicked, dude. People keep thinking like America. Yeah, well, you know what? We've been fucking playing against like, you know, McNeese State. Okay, we're basically like the Texas Longhorns playing McNeese State and being like, oh, look how good we are, man. We beat them 56-7. Like, look how good we are. We can beat Iraq. Okay. Iran and Hezbollah and Russia, like you don't want any of that shit. Okay, so we are completely out of our goddamn gourd.
Aren't those two different religions that would then side together?
Who?
The Muslims and the Christians
In Russia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they would. I mean, especially
To tell
Russia,
us that we're evil.
I mean, it's getting to the point. I mean, people, you know, in America, it's people, you know, I'm kind of ashamed. Like, it's like I don't feel like this is my country anymore. You know, the people running it sure as shit are not what I would consider American and what American values are supposed to be. I mean, it's there's a lot of shit, dude. It pisses me off. But anyways, we won't go into that. It's just so they're gonna build this. I'm looking for this. Let me see the actual vaulter. Here, let me see. Yeah, right. Let me see. They had built this. Here it is. It's like this. Where they're gonna walk it up, and they're gonna have an altar right here, and they're gonna cut its throat, and then burn it, and mix it with water. I mean, it's nuts, dude. And they've been trying to do this red heifer for thousands. They haven't done it since like the time, I forget. Like, what's funny is they ended up like genetically engineering it, which is hilarious. It's like, it's one thing if like, hey, a red heifer will come and then they're like waiting, but it's like, hey, let's just get this shit going, which to me shows how much bullshit it is, but we won't get into that. Anyway, so that's one part of the eclipse, and this is supposed to be done by April 10th. So they're going to sacrifice this red heifer on April 10th, from what I understand. They're
not even experiencing the eclipse. We're the ones experiencing the eclipse.
I don't know. Maybe they are. Yeah, but it still comes from us. The red heifer came from that X, right? So that synchronistically attaches itself symbolically. Because like the whole idea is that like all these sinks and stuff are kind of like an omen, if you will. And we're looking at this through like kind of the eyes of the ancients, but shit keeps getting weirder. So on top of that, all right, so we have that happening. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's just one thing. No need to flip out. I'm sharing one more thing.
Sure.
And you have this, which NASA is launching 3 rockets at the fucking sun during the eclipse. Which, what is that for? Like, why would you need to? Oh, we're gonna, like, what are you gonna reach the sun? It's the dumbest. So it's a ritual, man. These people do rituals.
They claim they want to learn something about the eclipse.
And what did they name it? Apep, Apophis. We see Ra with Thoth, Nekhbet. Okay, so this is Apophis, and Apophis eats the sun. He's a snake, and they're basically symbolically doing a ritual where they're sending 3 rockets, and he's saying that that's the 3 consorts that are here that go with. I guess that's Ra, right?
So this is SpaceX and Elon, right?
No, this is NASA.
This is actually NASA. Okay.
This is NASA. These 6, and these are the 3 rockets that they're sending, which correspond mythologically to these 3 guys. So it's and if you go anything about Freemasonry, even it's just like completely full of Egyptian symbology. So they know what's up. They're doing something. And then on top of that, okay, there is this where there's a devil's comet that's going to be visible during the eclipse. It comes every like 70 years. Okay. And they're launching it at 3:33, the rockets. I mean, how much more symbolic is that? 3:33. We all know what the 3 is, and 33 and all that shit that they, I remember this dude, Chris Knowles, was like putting out during COVID. It was like 33 people, 33 this, 33, like it was like 33 people are sick. It's like case says 33, it's just like 33s all the way around. So yeah, that just kind of shows that the powers that be definitely know something is up. Which brings us to our next point, which I wanted to, like, all of the weird emergencies that they're declaring before the eclipse, which is so weird, man, because I don't remember anything like that ever happening in a eclipse before. They're like, because there's so many people coming. It's like, okay, well, you don't declare an emergency when South by goes down or ACL or F1 or a football game. I mean, okay. So, we have to have an emergency. I mean, I think this is also ritual, and it's also preparing us for something really bad. Like, yesterday, the radar system, like Doppler radars, went down over a lot of counties. It was the same path as the eclipse that's coming up. And there was an earthquake yesterday in Taiwan. Okay. These are, I mean, if you go to the Bible, what does Jesus say? It's like there will be earthquakes and famines and rumors of wars in various places. These are the beginning of the birth pains. So what he's talking about is signs and portents, and we're seeing signs and portents right now. And we're going to get into the bridge collapse too, because yes, that does fucking connect as well to the eclipse. So here I'm going to share this real fast. Just kind of show you. This is our home, where we are. Issues disaster.
Travis County, that's Austin area.
Yeah. And then so I think they're doing so like this shit right here. National Guard provide hazmat response during eclipse. Why? Why would you do that? Not due to eclipse itself, but during to stock up on food, water, and fuel. Okay, so I think, and then we go into like the AT&T. Remember that shut down for a few hours a few weeks ago. I just feel like there's something coming, man. And so this is both symbolic, like it's like almost like the higher realms are like saying something with all their symbols, but the ruling class knows this. And I think because they have their astrologers and they're fucking sorcerers and shit. And so what they're doing is they're like preparing for something. And I think that they've known about this for a minute. And that's why, if you haven't noticed, like around 2017, it seems like they kind of put the gas on the pedal, right? Because we've been talking about we've been talking about how for years that they're ready to, Agenda 2021 or Agenda 21, for instance, and it changed to Agenda 2030. It seems like they kind of had like this timeline. Like by 2030, they have to have this dystopian, tyrannical, one world government shit that they're putting on everybody. I think this is involved. I think this has something to do with it. And I think it's because they're fucking astrologers and stuff are telling them, hey man, like based on because these people have a different religious belief than you would expect, which is they worship the Watchers, which is a whole other ball of wax. But anyway, okay. So yeah, so they're doing all these weird hazmat. Why would you do that? Because millions are drawn to the location. I just don't see millions of people coming. Like they didn't have all this shit. So I just think that's very bizarre. I think that it's saying something, and they may be ready for something to go down. And it's like also, there was a bird flu found in Texas today. They jumped from a bird to a cow to a human, which is impossible unless you're doing man-made shit.
In a very, very, very small county that borders New Mexico up in the panhandle of Texas.
And then you have like the fire in the panhandle, which, how much cattle land did burn down and how many cattle burned down. And I think they're about to euthanize 2 million chickens, dude, because of that. So that's like the whole thing with the food supply, with all those food processing plants going on fire. Yeah, I mean, buckle up, Buttercup, because there seems like there's something big coming. So anyways, let's talk about the bridge collapse.
Or are they just trying to make it happen, manifest inside of our minds, inside of us? We create reality, maybe.
No, I don't think we create reality. I think it's both. So, I think reality is objective and subjective at the same time. No, I think these are just the times, man. I think that the world goes by in cycles, and I think there's been apocalypses throughout history. Like when Atlantis was destroyed, that's an apocalypse. But then we're here, right? But then it's like what is America? The new Atlantis, right? I mean, Francis Bacon even wrote a whole book about that. And that it has a secret destiny and all this shit. I just think that these are the signs, man. These are the, Chris Knowles thinks that Revelation is a star map, but it doesn't mean that it's all like zeitgeist. Where it's like, yeah, it's all bullshit because it's just Jesus was Mars, man. He was this is Virgo, bro. It's like it's all dumb. It's like, no, it's true, it is, but it's like because it's telling a greater story. It's a grand story across time. It's like human history, and that basically what's happening is just these are so he says a star map, and then in 2017, I think right after this eclipse, there was these like stars aligned all within like the dragon, and he's like I think this is the beginning of the end. This is like the beginning of the apocalypse, which kind of is when it started. And if the apocalypses take years, it's not like happens one day. And also the apocalypse means the unveiling. That's literally what it means. So that's why everything's getting weird, where everything seems to be getting unveiled. Puff Daddy gets arrested. Stuff's starting to come out, like what people like you and I have been saying for years. It's like all being verified.
Yeah, we're conspiracy buddies.
And I think that the powers that be know that their time is up. So I think that they really are falling. Dude, I think that they're scared. And that's why they're getting so crazy and weird and desperate and like throwing all that, like what they're doing to Ukraine. I mean, everything they're doing in Ukraine is just a losing strategy. Pillaring the treasury, printing money nonstop, I think they're paying like $1 trillion in debt, dude, every 3 months. And fucking interest. Okay? $1 trillion in interest that we're paying the Federal Reserve because they just keep printing money. And then, the Republicans, they're about to do another Ukraine bill because they're all fucking traitors.
When you and I graduated from high school, there was 6.8 trillion debt. When you and I graduated from college, there was 9 trillion debt. Now, 34.4 trillion debt.
Yep. And it's only going to exponentially go higher and higher, man, because you can't keep up with the interest. If anyone that knows about credit, if anyone's ever had credit card debt, at first, yeah, you're paying $20 a month, okay, but then it's like $150 a month, $250 a month, and then it gets harder to pay off, right? Because you only have $300 to pay, so you're only hitting $50 of your principal. So now you're just in this fucking hole.
You bring up
that's what you're doing.
You bring up the Ukraine, and that makes me think about how sorry I feel for some of the Ukraine natives that are forced to the front lines.
They're like putting 50-year-olds and I think like 16 and 17-year-olds. They're just.
I saw a pregnant woman once being captured by
giving the women.
Yeah,
it's disgusting, dude. They're just destroying their entire generation of people, and they could have sued for peace a year ago. And guess Boris Johnson came and stopped it, with Putin brought up in that Tucker interview. And fuck him. I mean, fuck that. Fuck all these people. You know what's funny? Boris Johnson was a conservative. He was supposed to be like Brexit, like kind of like, hey, let's get away from all this like crazy liberal shit that's like going crazy. And then what does he do? He just perpetuates it even more. It just never ends, dude. Our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, what is he doing? Perpetuating it even more. And yeah, he'll be against trannies, but fuck, dude. But you'll still sell us out by like printing billions of dollars and sending it and like just throwing it to a money pit where people are just getting killed unnecessarily when you could have ended it because you know you're going to lose. And all those sanctions they did on Russia, by the way, all backfired, and Russia's stronger than ever. And also, it's the beginning of the end for the Federal Reserve, or for the petrodollar, and the United States having the reserve world currency, which is, dude, I mean, maybe it's a good time to plug in Hex in that statement.
Hex.com, save yourself.
But
the reason why I brought that up is because I was flipping through Twitter the other day and I saw a video from a guy who says that after 13 years of not being in the Marine Corps service, he's being recalled now.
Dude, I saw that too.
That's scary as shit.
People getting letters. Dude, I think that in Taiwan. Okay, so Taiwan just had an earthquake yesterday, and then the Russian Navy is going there right now. I think the cover is aid, but obviously, if they ever wanted to take Taiwan, it probably would be a good time, right? Just being as a strategic, like, hey, America's in fucking mess. Dude, people don't respect America anymore. The whole BRICS country is going off the Federal Reserve currency, and like it. This administration has destroyed. We've been destroying ourselves for a long time, but I think specifically the Obama. Honestly, since Bush, but Clinton did too. Clinton did NAFTA, and he was, he's the guy that did Ruby Ridge and Waco and all that shit. And then before that was Reagan, who I think got shot early on to kill him. He didn't die, but they were like, well, okay, well now you're going to play ball, right? Who gave amnesty to all these illegals in California. And you know what happened then? Because California used to be like a red state, dude. People always think of California as wacky, but it was like America, dude. California was fucking like, it was fun. It was hot girls. It was, guitars, muscle cars, beautiful. And if you've ever been there, it is beautiful. And they just, so it is sad, dude, to just watch.
Our mutual friend John said that San Diego was the absolute best place he's ever been.
Oh, I've been to San Diego. It is awesome. It is kind of paradisey, like especially if you're visiting there and everything's laid back and you're just drinking margaritas and shit. It is a great town, and they have really good fish. They're like fish tacos, kind of like us is the breakfast tacos or whatever. Right here, it's like they're everywhere, dude.
I've heard about it. There's a lot of people in Hex from California. That's awesome. So Milei down there in Argentina, he's got back doors to him as well, doesn't he?
Oh yeah,
the new president of Argentina.
There's some I don't really trust him. He's also selling out his country to he's like, oh, I don't want to be communist or whatever. That's great, but then he's like, oh, so anyways, BlackRock, come in. And BlackRock's all involved in this shit with the migrants, dude. They're about to because apparently the government's about to pay if you put up at like $250 a week or something for if you house a migrant in New York. And guess what? BlackRock has all these fucking houses that they bought out. They're going to start housing migrants and then getting paid by the federal government on top of it. It's just disgusting. I can't believe that they're just doing it openly and then like nothing is happening. I don't like, yeah, a Republican will get on Congress and be like, they're flying people and that's wrong. I'm like, okay, well, isn't that a crime? Like, is something going to happen? They couldn't even impeach Mayorkas, who's a human scumbag. Don't get me started on a piece of shit he is and how involved he is. His whole job is to flood America, to change the demographics. And if there's a depopulation thing coming, which we can get into a little bit, this whole thing, by the way, it's hard to kind of pin down. It's kind of everywhere. So sorry if I'm rambling, but
I'll try to keep you on task.
Yeah. So there's some, Knowles was just saying, I was just listening to a presentation actually when you hit me up. I haven't finished it, but he's like, I get an instinct that there's like a depopulation kind of program about to roll out, which makes sense why they would replace us. You're like, what are they doing that for? Then it's like, okay, now kill off the native population and then have like all these third world immigrants you don't give a fuck about. They're like, hey, and they'll just pay them like UBI basically, dude. And they'll just have, it's crazy, man. It's like they want to just create this permanent slave class across the globe.
So in case
shows you how evil they are.
In case people didn't hear that right, with all the inflation, bad banking system that we've been experiencing here in the United States, in the Northeast, they're allowing so many properties to go vacant, and BlackRock is going and buying those huge neighborhoods. And instead of renting them out to anybody, we now find out that these blue liberal states are willing to pay per week for housing situations, temporary housing situations for migrants, so they can move right into those empty homes. And, it's just corruption feeding itself with our fake money.
Yeah, dude. It's okay, so let's talk about the bridge.
Do you want me to bring up that other share screen?
Sure, okay. Yeah.
So what is this website we're looking at?
This is the Secret Sun. secretsun.blogspot.com. It's run by a guy named Christopher Knowles, who I've been reading. I've been reading this blog for like 15 years, probably, maybe like 12. But it's really interesting. It's hard to kind of like give it to anybody that they haven't like just really read all his stuff before, because he kind of assumes, remember this. And it goes pretty deep. And basically he's like a synchro mystic, where he's talking about all of the shit that's happening synchronous. What we're talking about, like, how is it that there's the red heifer is in between that and all this stuff? Like, that's a sync, So people think, I'll say this too. Like, some people say that like everything's rigged, or like because all these syncs and all these coincidences happening. So it's like, oh, it's obviously like they plan it. I don't think they do. I just think that's a signature. So for instance, like, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, people were like, oh, it's rigged. And it's like, okay. You're like, yeah, because Patrick Mahomes threw for 333, right? You're like, yeah, okay. But the thing is, that's not planned, but that's a signature. They probably did like a cult shit to make sure that happened. And then that's the signature like of the magic ritual. Like, yeah, that worked because he threw for 333. And I think that's what we're looking at here is this is beyond mankind. This is why it gets so crazy. It's because this is something bigger than us. This is something really, these are ages, these are aeons, these are the books of old that you read about. These are the biblical times, as people say. That's what this is. So was the bridge purposely taken down or not? I don't know, man. I go back and forth. But it could have possibly be. But for what we're talking about now, it doesn't really matter because the same effects will happen. And okay, so the bridge collapsed. Okay,
there's plenty more bridges, though.
This bridge is pretty big because this is the port of Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the number one place where they like dangerous chemicals, like hazardous waste and all this shit. That was the number one place in the world, around the world, the United States, where that went to and fro. So I think like lithium ion, uranium, nuclear waste, like anything that's like hazardous, you know, all these chemicals goes through that port, number one. So now that that bridge is collapsed, dude, people can't, it's going to take like years to get it going because they have to remove all the debris, and all these ships are still trapped behind there, including this one, these warships from the Navy called the Algol class, which are very fast destroyers. They're trapped. And I'm not going to get into Algol, but that's a star, and that's also a sink. But that's hard to explain if you haven't gone down that road. So, anyways, so this eclipse, I mean, this bridge. Okay, so there's an eclipse April 8th, right? Well, there was a lunar eclipse on March 26th. This happened at the peak of the fucking lunar eclipse. The bridge collapse. It was like 1:30 in the morning, Baltimore time. I think it peaked at like 3 in the morning. So that's like important right there. Okay. It's like, well, that's kind of crazy. There's a mini eclipse, like almost like the prequel, the lunar eclipse that no one really gives a shit much about because there's like 4 a year, right? Or 2 a year, whatever. It's like, that's weird, man. And then on top of it, the mayor of Baltimore, that there was like a little bit of a controversy, I guess, because he's like a black guy. And then, of course, now everyone says anytime someone's black, I guess. So it's kind of gets lame. There's a point to it. I don't think that was the time to do it. I get it because he's wearing a fucking leather jacket. So like, what do you expect people are going to say about you, dude? Also, your city's a shithole. But guess what his birthday is? Guess where his birthday? April 8th. So that's a sync. That's when the eclipse is. So the bridge collapses on March 26th during the lunar eclipse, while it's happening. And then the mayor, that there's like a controversy, which I think some of these controversies are fake. Because everyone's like saying that about him, and he had to go and be like, oh, they're all racist or whatever. Yeah, he's born on April 8th. So that connects to the fucking eclipse. That's a sync. If you want to know what a sync is, that's a perfect example of a sync.
So with that theory, then there would be multiple other ways for catastrophe to happen. It's just that this one was the one where the spark happened.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a pretty big deal. This, like, they're downplaying it. Also, you know, what's fishy to me, and this always kind of raises alarm bells, is that they knew in 3 hours that it was an accident. Like, they didn't even we have to do an investigation. They just, that's it. So that always is, you know, that's very similar to 9/11, right? Where it's like, yeah, well, Osama bin Laden, that was Osama bin Laden, right? Very similar to just know the answer before you even look at it. So I think that they're downplaying it. I do think, and also the bridges, what's the bridge's name? The Francis Scott Key Bridge, right? Tell me there's nothing more symbolic than the fucking Francis Scott Key Bridge, who wrote the national anthem, crashing in the water right before, on a lunar eclipse, right before the solar eclipse.
Whoa.
I mean, that's important, man. I mean, I think things, you know, start getting prepared, man. I think things could get pretty fucking crazy. Another thing about this eclipse is like, when it first enters the U.S., the first town it goes into is Eagle Pass. And we know like all the shit going on with Eagle Pass.
Eagle Pass is where we've seen so many photos of the federal versus Texas governments in that park where the migrants are trying to force themselves in.
So that's when it enters the United States, is Eagle Pass. I mean, come on, dude. And it goes through a lot of other crazy cities. Oh, it goes directly through the New Madrid fault line, which I think is where the radars went out yesterday, which is like this fault line that had these crazy earthquakes. It's like in Missouri, 1811, 7.8, 8.2 earthquakes that made the Mississippi go backwards. That's how crazy that earthquake was. It was like right on the edge of the Mississippi River. Yeah. And so that's right where the eclipse, the 2017 eclipse and the 2024 eclipse cross, that's right in the New Madrid fault zone. So some people think that that's like an omen of an earthquake because it's about ready to blow. It's been 200 plus years. It's right by Arkansas. It's in the Ozarks. It's Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Louisville. Oh, dude, it's anyway. So there's just a lot of stuff. Hold on a sec. Someone hit me up at work.
Cool. Yeah, for everybody who's not in our country, the Mississippi is like a mile wide. The Mississippi River.
It's a huge river. I think it's like the third biggest river in the world.
I forgot the stats on how much water's flowing through it.
It's
like
insane.
how much
I mean,
per second.
It goes directly through the United States. And then the Ohio River goes off of it. I mean, it's a port, the port of New Orleans. There's so much, all these people don't realize how much complex all these systems are where you go to the grocery store and you get your chicken. I mean, dude, it's like the processing and like the oil and the gas and like the trains and the freighters. And like, when you get an imported car from, a BMW, I mean, that shit was put on a freighter, dude, and shipped across the ocean. And it went into a port and then it came out. So also, I think the port of Baltimore was the number one car port, like the most imports of foreign cars. So, cars, as we know, is like super expensive right now. So I'm sure it's going to go up even more.
But are they trying to break down an east to west transit route for us with these catastrophes?
Hold on, I got to answer this question for work.
Okay.
Easy payments.
Do you want me to take you off screen?
No, it's fine. I'm not sharing my screen, right? So easy.
Correct.
To
again, folks, this is secretsun.blogspot.com. And welcome, Tin Top, to the chat. Jay Everything, Alan, HOA. Good to see y'all.
So what are you talking about there? That's
what are we doing? Stopping here.
So there's one more thing.
With the bridge?
Easy payments. Hold on, I'm sorry, dude.
It's all good.
Skyping me. We don't go look up CERN. We can talk about that. Yeah, so CERN is to be reactivated on April 8th.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a giant lightning storm. So yeah, you can click on one of those articles and just scroll down and see what it says.
Is CERN a part of one of these articles? So I know that CERN is being reactivated on the Eclipse.
Yeah, so there's like that hazmat or the P. Diddy thing. Oh, he really, Obama's definitely on one of those tapes somewhere. Oh, then this whole thing with the smiley face killers. That's another rabbit hole. But this guy was found. All these young college kids. This happened in Austin too. Last year, there's like, they keep on pulling all these bodies out of the lake. They're all the same MO. They're younger 22-year-old college kids that go out on the town with their boys. And then they go missing. They kind of like they're drunk, and then like get them an Uber, and then no one ever sees them again. And then they look for him, and no one can find him. And then like 7 or 8 days later, they're just in the river, right? And the theory is that it's a smiley face killers. Which this one was crazy because this girl showed up to the press conference with the phone. Like she was like in the background where the cops talking about like we found Riley Strain. He was missing for like 2 weeks and they just find him in the river. And by the way, they're like, oh, accidental. It's like they didn't even find. They had the parents got a separate autopsy. He didn't even have water in his lungs, so he didn't drown in the river. The idea is that they're killing them and then dumping him in the river. And this has happened like the last decade or more in different cities. And anyways, at that one press conference, this girl, or some people think it's a tranny, comes with the phone and it has smiley faces on the back cover.
Oh,
like almost like mocking, like, and then she fake cries. And then there's 2 girls that found his like his ID card and they're being all weird about it. So
yeah, there's no reason for that girl to be in the camera shot because the guy was being interviewed in front of the camera and microphone. And then she goes and walks around him on his right side.
Oh, I see what she's saying.
You can imagine all the freaks that we're creating by creating weird times. You know, just create just a little bit of chaos and that butterfly effect all over the place. Good morning, Duraj. I see you in the chat.
That's what you're saying, EDC report. I was all. So April 8th, they're doing the CERN particle accelerator again.
Right.
Supposedly they're trying to create dark matter. I'm sure. I mean, it's just there's a lot more things. Oh, yeah, here's another weird one. This is kind of like occult stuff. I don't know if anyone knows who Aleister Crowley is. I'm sure most people have heard that name. His whole religion is Thelema, okay, which was started in 1904 based on this book of the law that was transcribed to him. Basically, he says as automatic writing, like it was like prescribed by this being called Aiwass, okay, and Aiwass came to him in Egypt when he was with his wife. They were in Egypt, and then it told him to go to Cairo and like look at this cliff, and they saw Horus, and then the Cairo museum had Horus, and then like the number of the exhibit was 666, and that's like he was like, oh, that's a sign. And then Aiwass came to him, and then he dictated the book of the law, which I think is actually more influential to the 20th century than people think. I mean, basically he prophesied in the future everyone will be a narcissist and like rock and roll and shit, and that's basically like go look at the 60s and tell me that wasn't the beginning of Crowley. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, I don't have time to do that. But anyways, Aiwass first came to him to do this automatic writing on April 8th in 1904. So there's another weird sync with the dates. So yeah, it's I'm trying to see if there's any. Oh, and then the whole thing with the hold on, can I share my screen real fast?
Your screen.
Yeah.
You don't have it shared right now.
All right, let me share it real fast.
What's up?
So this is what I was talking about with the smiley face.
Mm-hmm.
At the press conference. But anyway, yeah, the whole thing with the royal family is really bizarre. With Kate going missing and then putting out AI generated videos of her. Oh, here's another little sync that's weird.
The thing about Kate that I don't like is that we're having a bunch of cancer arise in the populace, and then it's like she can say, "Oh, I'm going through this with you."
I think she's dead, dude.
And it's a normal thing because it happened to the royal family.
Here's another sync that's, or not a sync, I think a ritual. This is the Biden's. It's called It's called Cancer Moonshot. Okay, Cancer is like the moon. So the moon rules the sign of Cancer. So you have that. You call it Moonshot. And it's for like this whole idea of covering steps to beat cancer, which just all ties into like the increased cancers that are coming with the shots. So I mean, there's a play on words there. It's definitely a fucking. It's not good. It's definitely some sinister. So Chris Knowles, when you hit me up, was just going over this shit, the symbology behind it, and kind of like what it seems to be a depopulation, and also in Canada, they're telling 28-year-olds that are depressed that maybe you should just die. Why don't you get in this fucking pod, and then we'll put on your favorite songs, man, and then we'll just inject you and you'll die at peace. They're literally doing that. Well, she's depressed. This one guy was like, he couldn't afford rent anymore. Like he's like, I don't know what to do. And so he just like applied, and they're like, yeah, we'll kill you with euthanasia. So that's happening because they hate you. You want to take away anything? The world is way different than you think it is. And like these are portents and symbols. And also the ruling class hates you. And so does the news media. Every time there's a news story and they tell you what to think, it's because they hate you. Okay. So write that down, first of all. But yeah, dude, it's, let's see.
So that guy who ran out of rent money, I think he was a homeless guy who then got housed by the government. And then the government has now said, okay, we're not able to honor this anymore. And then so the guy's just like, well, maybe if I just like kill myself, it'll be all right. No one seems to care that I'm alive anyway.
Yeah, and not only that, but the government's like more than happy to kill him because it's like, oh, one less mouth to feed. They really. So, anyways, dude,
I don't know if he's dead yet. The story was like a year ago on Vice or something.
This is the CERN story. This started its Awake experiment 2016. When a photo were taken at a facility.
You're not shared right now, by the way.
Gotta keep some moving me out. So this was an electromagnetic storm taking over CERN in 2016. Like, tell me that that's normal. Expected on April 8th. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, so this, so I'll leave you with this, dude. I would say go to this guy's blog. If you're really interested, he has a Patreon that I have that he puts a lot of like presentations of stuff and everything. It's $5 a month. If you have that, I recommend it. Though, like I said, it's kind of hard to like just jump into his work because there's so much stuff that he talks about that's kind of he had written about in the past. I would say when reading his blog for years, it really got crazy after Vegas. His work on the Vegas shooting and how symbolic that was, and like that was crazy, dude. And that he basically said that was like the ritual to kick off what we're doing, right? That was October 1st, 2017, and that was, I think, right after the eclipse. I think the eclipse is in the summer, I believe. Yeah, dude. There's one thing I'll just leave you with here that I just saw Noel's post, which I think is a good way to kind of like encapsulate like what I'm talking about and how bizarre it is. And
so we all need 30 days worth of food, right?
Yeah.
And I think
water too.
Oh yeah, water.
People forget about that one. I don't have it either, but supposedly I looked it up. Like you can go to Academy, get some, containers, like jugs that are like 40 gallons. Keep those filled up, and then I think you're supposed to change them out every 3 months, because they get kind of But yeah, at least have that, or at least just a week's worth of water, you know, just something. And then what you can. And then obviously beans and rice, if you can. You know, like I probably should get this too. I try to get like a propane stove, like a little camper stove, just in case, because I have all my appliances are electric. So if my electricity goes out, I can't cook. You can't use the microwave, which sucks. Don't ever have an electric stove; they suck. Anyway, hold on. I'm looking for this.
I think a lot of these guys are outside of apartments, so we could, you know, make a rocket stove out of mud if we had to.
Yeah, if you don't live in an apartment like me, you're definitely a lot more able to, you know, you probably get a guarded and a chicken coop if you could, or a but at least, man, just have a week, you know, have some beans and rice. Like I'm gonna go today, I'm gonna get some shit just in case, because even if nothing happens, I don't think anything's gonna happen on April 8th. I don't. But I mean, if everyone just cleans out the store, then it's hard to get shit for like. But I think what's going to happen is this eclipse, you're going to see the effects of it over the next 5 years, right?
Okay.
Next 10 years. It's not like it just happens overnight. Just like the 2017 happened, it doesn't happen overnight. And I'll read this last thing. This is from Chris Knowles, and I think this is kind of what you're like. What are you talking about, Coy? Like, he says this: the supernatural is real. The spirit realm is real. The world is run by sorcery, not science. It's a hard pill for most people to swallow. Believe me, I get it. It goes against everything we're told, even by our so-called religious authorities. But it's the real red pill. And so, yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. And that's, you know, I know that's a little strange. Like, it's hard to kind of like grasp your mind around that. But, yeah, and that kind of goes into like, well, how does this... Oh, so an eclipse happens. What does that have to do with anything, man? It's just a fucking physics, right? You know, which it is, but it means something, man. It's like the world's a little stranger than you think it is. The fact that the moon is exactly, you know, 400, what is it? It's 1/400th size of the sun, but it's exactly like 400 times less distant. So it's a perfect, I mean, come on, dude. If that doesn't show you that, like, the clockmaker, the creator, I don't know what does. So I think
I look at it as like it has the same pace and it always faces us. You know, the same face and the same pace.
You only see one side of the moon.
So that to me just says that, wow, that's...
Yeah, things are like a clock, dude. I mean, that's why like astrology, people like, you know, all these planets, the ancients revered these planets. This kind of goes into like, I think maybe this is the Watcher stuff. Like, who are the Watchers and how the ruling class worships the Watchers. That's a whole nother ball of wax. I recommend Chris's blog. He explains it better than I do. I would say, I'm very influenced by his work.
Could we have you back later for the Watchers episode?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just let me know. I'll have to give me a heads up. I'll like kind of get some prepared stuff for it, because that's a strange one, but it's a fun one, man. It's fun. The apocalypse is fun, Davin. It's fun.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And this guy needs to get back to his day.
Got to do my Excel spreadsheets.
See you guys later.
All right. Peace.